Hey tankers, welcome back to World of Tanks and Tanks of the War Part 2 with the M4A3E8 Thunderbolt. Now let's talk about the Thunderbolt for a second. I said I was only going to do tanks that actually served in the war. Okay, well Thunderbolt 7 is Colonel Creighton Abrams, later General, personal tank. He had 7 Thunderbolts, of course, hence the name Thunderbolt 7, so emblazoned on the side. And he has the distinction of having served with 7 Shermans in the war, commanded 7 Shermans in the war, and never once losing one to enemy fire. He never had a single tank knocked out by enemy fire. He had his tanks knocked out because he simply wore them out and had to switch to a new one. The Thunderbolt represents an important modification to the American tankers of World War II. Shermans were produced, as I've told you, by the thousands, 50,000 of them made. And the American tankers were very quick to modify them in the field a number of different ways. And most of it was for the purpose of adding more armor. They did a number of things. They put planks of wood down the side, which served a couple purposes. It helped in getting your tank out of mud, but the idea being they would help with a little bit of additional armor, especially with magnetic mines, that type of thing. I've even seen pictures where they welded steel plates on and put concrete between the steel plates, a number of different things, and certainly putting extra track pieces and anything they could on the tank was very common. The Jumbo was not produced in large numbers, but it was very popular. Creighton Abrams recognized the value of the additional armor on the Jumbo, and he had quite a number of tanks modified to something similar, and you can see it right here, this seam, and this is where steel plate has been welded onto the front of this Thunderbolt, and it goes all the way down the upper glacis plate, with only a very small part of the lower glacis showing right here. Additionally, he put more on the sides here, which you can see the gap acts as spaced armor, and there's additional armor welded on to the turret around the sides. And this performed very adequately for Creighton Abrams and the other guys in his unit that got that modification. Now, in terms of the game versus the standard Easy 8 Sherman, which I have right here, and they're obviously identical looking. In terms of looks, the only difference is the additional armor. They have the same gun. They both have the M1A2, which again, not entirely accurate. This tank would have been equipped with an M1A1, but the penetration figures are basically the same. The difference between this and a standard Easy 8 is beyond the fact this is a premium tank and therefore earns premium credits and XP, is that you have the additional armor, okay, which decreases your mobility. Your top speed is 42 instead of 48 on the Easy 8. The Easy 8 has a 16.96 specific power, and the Thunderbolt is only 13.35. So you're slower, and you take more time to get up to speed. There is also a difference in firepower that's important to note. The Thunderbolt, equipped with a 100% Brothers in Arms crew, a rammer, and vents, gets, a DPM of 2322, whereas the Easy 8 gets a DPM of 2533. So the DPM is almost 10% better on the standard Easy 8. Easy 8's reload time is faster, okay, with the same equipment and the same crew. However, the aim time is 2.11 on the Easy 8, where it's 1.97 on the, 1.93 on the Thunderbolt, and the dispersion is also goes from 0.37 to 0.35, and that's with a 100% crew with Brothers in Arms, or Sisterhood Steel, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So while it doesn't dish out quite as much damage per minute, it is slightly more accurate, and you also can't see that in these stats, but it is also slightly more accurate on the move. Okay, so firing while moving with this tank is something you should always be doing. especially if you are smart and put a stabilizer. Vents, rammer, stabilizer. Standard American medium tank special equipment loadout. Gets great spotting figures. Not a whole lot you really need to talk about there. What's cool about this tank is, just like the Sherman Jumbo, you can play this tank as a heavy tank in a lot of situations, because this armor will prove to be surprisingly bouncy against most enemy tanks. Most tier 6s will resort to firing premium ammo at this tank to penetrate its front. This, of course, is your obvious weak spot. Your standard Sherman has 63 millimeters of frontal armor. Well, the Thunderbolt has a lot more. It has 123, except here. This is 63, essentially. It may even be less than that, because I think that's even a weak spot on the Easy 8. But let's be blunt, 63 millimeters of armor at tier 6 is nothing. This is spaced armor. Heat will oftentimes get blocked by this right here, just like it would by a track. And in general, you don't want to fire much AG at this tank. You'll find very little success when you're shooting at it. You need to be shooting through here if you've got the side, or preferably at the back. This is not terribly difficult to penetrate if you're a tier 6 or higher tank. Especially this area right here is very easy to penetrate. Where this additional armor can be a little tough if you're lower tier. If you're in the Thunderbolt, keep your front to the enemy. That's all I gotta say. Keep your front to the enemy and just blast away. You've got a perfectly adequate gun. If you find yourself in a tier 8 game, you're going to find that 128 pen to be a little lacking. 177 on the HVAP ammo, of course, makes a huge difference. So, there it is. On to the gameplay. Alright everybody, here's the gameplay on the Thunderbolt. And this is really an unfair one. This one was almost too easy. Because you can see I'm in the Thunderbolt and I'm top tier in a 3-5-7 matchmaking game. So there's only 3 tier 6s on each team, and I happen to be one of them in a medium tank that can be played as a heavy. Anyway, so here we are on Redshire in an encounter battle, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm heading left towards what is generally known as Heavy Alley. Though I've noticed the meta on this has been a little different here lately. There's been a lot more medium tanks coming to this part of the map than used to be, and I think it's because this terrain up ahead has been changed up a little bit. We've got an enemy T-14 up ahead, as well as a the P-43 Italian tank. And our A-20 just got nuked. And there goes our T-28. So just like that, this is going well. And the P-43 immediately blows one right through my lower plate. I take a hit from already stunning me, which causes me to miss my shot on the PC-4H, though he comes out full on. I put one through the drive wheel for the pen. He doesn't know where to pen me, or can't, and I'm just going to keep punishing him. Finally he gets one through, I get the kill. Now, I might have overestimated how aggressive I could be on this. I'm down to a third health already. Yeah, even if I didn't expect that shot to hit, and it certainly wasn't going to pen. Not a Stewart at that angle. And right now we're down 2-4 and the enemy team's capping. I decide I want to get into where I really need to be, and that's up against these tier 5 heavy tanks. Because the Churchill and the T-14 especially, the T-14's got the M3 75mm gun. I know I can deal with him. And the Churchill has a nice big flat spot right on his turret that I can pen every time I shoot it. Anyway, 3 shots for the kill. And now I'm going to kill the T-14, though I don't do it in time to save my Churchill 3. Enemy Matilda, tough tank, but not for this gun, not when he's side on. He turns to face me, I blow right through his turret. Keep an eye on the Stewart, I put one into the Stewart. Hit one P-43 to get him to back off. I keep wanting to say PZ-43. So I've basically backed off all 3 of those tanks, and I've managed to even the score to 7-7. don't manage to get the kill shot on the P-43. Got 3 kills, 1200 damage. Once I changed my position, just decided I'm not going to deal with that over there, and I'm going to break these heavy tanks. Things started going a lot better for me, because I knew those heavy tanks had less firepower. Now we've got they're capping again. It's not really that big a conundrum, because we got 4 minutes, so I'm going to waste a little ammo. And decide, well, this is a waste of time. Let me just get in this. And all of a sudden there's 3 uncapped, so I'm glad I started moving when I did, because now I've got just over a minute. And you can see going through rough terrain and uphill, the mobility suffers a little bit. An Easy 8 would have handled that much easier. Cutting the angle a little bit. One of them got reset, maybe an arty strike. PZ-38NA fires and bounces. I stopped to aim, and he actually manages to pen me. Well, you know what? Good for him. Maybe he fired premium. I don't know. This Lux, I think, is going to come for the T-40, and somehow he's not aware that I'm here. One into him as he goes by, and I finish him off, but I still lose the T-40 to the PZ-38. One enemy tank capping. Who just got reset by Artie. It's the Steward again, who I finished with a shot on the move, which you can do very easily on this tank. Make sure you run your stabilizer. Artillery harassing me. 3 enemy tanks left. Decide to go for this T-34S, though I know he's going to spot me, and that's going to make me a target for Artie, but he's the only thing I can shoot at that I know where it is at the moment. He's hiding behind a rock. So that's a hard shot, and I still managed to land it. And I finish him off. Now I'm spotted, so I gotta move. I gotta move quickly, because you know Artie's aiming at me. Has to be. And there it is. He just barely missed. But now I've got time. But the T-34S was the top gun. I also managed the high caliber, and interestingly enough, and our T-14 killed the Hummel. Interestingly enough, I did not manage the steel wall because I wasn't hit enough times. Which is really kind of surprising because it's as much damage as I've taken, but most of this damage I took early. So I wasn't shot enough for the steel wall. But I'm going to speed this up because frankly this gets kind of humdrum because we don't know where he is. It's a PZ-38NA. He could be anywhere, and I'm not chasing him. So I'm trying to pick the best position, someplace maybe right there in the bushes. But you got to see the Thunderbolt at its best, and you got to see a little bit of the worst. Obviously, the P-43 knew where to shoot me, but you can see a lot of people don't. And you'll run up against that, even against Tier 7 and sometimes Tier 8 tanks. In some of my first Thunderbolt videos, AMX 1357F had no clue. And that's a Tier 7 light tank. I bounced, he fired a full clip at me, and I bounced half of him. And he ended up dying. So I back up into these bushes, and spoiler alert, it ends up being a cap win. So, but you got to see the armor, you got to see the rate of fire, the accuracy on the gun on the move. You saw a little bit of that. You saw how you can bully your way through lower tier heavy tanks, and you'd be surprised a lot of times you can bully your way through even Tier 6 heavy tanks. So, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I hope you're liking this series. I really would appreciate some feedback. A thumbs up, a like on the video would mean a lot to me. I'd like to see this channel start to move again. And please subscribe if you aren't already. And I've got more Tanks of the War, starting with the American tanks. I've got more of these coming. So thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next time.